I remember the sound before the slaughter began. Not the clash of bronze, not the screaming of dying men, the breathing. Men choking inside their helmets. Air tearing through their throats like broken glass while the smell of iron drifted through the wind, sweat, blood, smoke. The battle had not even begun, yet fear was already tightening the lungs of every man in the line. I heard warriors beside me gasping for air, faster and louder with every passing heartbeat. Their chests rose like bellows feeding a dying fire. Panic crept into their lungs before the enemy even touched them. In Troy, that was the first sign a man would fall, not the wound, not the blade, the breath. When a warrior lost control of it, he exposed his throat to the spear. Then the line shattered. Shields cracked like dry stone. Spears splintered against bone. Bodies collided in a storm of bronze and flesh. The air filled with dust and ash as men pushed, screamed, and died in the chaos. My heart hammered against the inside of my armor, and my breath began to run, wild like a horse that had broken its reins. Steel screamed around me. Boots crushed bodies beneath them. The world became nothing but noise and motion and terror. And in that moment, I felt the same enemy that kills men long before the sword arrives, panic, the invisible blade that opens the gates from within. So I did the only thing a warrior can do when death is closing in from every side. I slowed my breath, one breath, in Inaza. The slaughter continued to scream around me, but inside the bronze helmet there was silence. My heart lowered like a closing gate, and I remembered a law older than war itself. Your breath is the only thing the enemy cannot take. Lose it, and you lose your life. A man sits alone in a dark room. The only light is a cold blue screen staring back at him like a silent judge. Messages, deadlines, pressure stacking like stones against a city wall. His jaw is tight. His chest rises to fast. His mind runs in circles, searching for a threat it cannot see. He thinks he is safe because there are no swords in the room, no arrows flying past his head. But I have seen cities burn for far less than this. I watched Troy fall not only from spears and fire, but from the invisible collapse inside the minds of men. This is how every siege begins. First, the breath breaks, the lungs grow shallow. The heart pounds like war drums inside the chest. The mind fills with noise. Panic whispers that the walls are falling, even when the enemy has not yet touched the gate. That is why this channel exists, not for comfort, not for soft words, but for men who choose discipline over chaos. If you stand guard over your mind, like a sentinel over a city wall, then join the Silent Legion. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you receive the signal when the next command is delivered. Because the world outside your door is louder than any battlefield I have ever seen. Noise, pressure, endless distraction. And most men are already losing the siege. But a warrior who controls his breath can still hold the gates, even when the entire world is screaming for them to fall. On the battlefield of Troy, the first man to die was rarely the man with the weakest sword. It was the man who lost control of his lungs. I saw it many times. A warrior would begin gasping inside his helmet, dragging air into his chest like a drowning sailor pulling at the sea. His breath became loud, desperate, broken, and before the spear even touched him, his fate was already sealed. Because a man who gasps for air lifts his head, his shield drops, and his neck stretches forward like a gate left open in the night. The enemy does not need strength to kill such a man. He only needs patience. Panic exposes the throat long before the blade arrives. Breath is not just air. It is a signal sent through the body's hidden corridors. When the lungs begin to race, the heart answers. When the heart pounds harder, the mind hears war drums. And the brain believes the city is already falling. That is the anatomy of panic. The body begins to shout a warning that grows louder with every shallow breath. The chest tightens. The shoulders rise. Noise floods the mind like soldiers rushing through broken gates. Soon, the warrior is no longer thinking. He is only reacting. His movements lose precision. His vision narrows to a single point of fear. The battle becomes louder, faster, more chaotic inside his own head than it is on the field itself. Panic does not simply weaken a man. It steals command of the fortress within him. The modern battlefield looks different, but the signal is the same: a glowing screen, a crowded train, a silent room filled with pressure and invisible expectations. The lungs grow shallow, the breath becomes quick and uneven, and the brain hears the same ancient alarm it once heard beneath the burning walls of Troy. To the mind, shallow breathing means danger. It means the walls are breaking. It means the enemy has crossed the outer ramparts. Muscles tighten, vision narrows. Thought collapses under the weight of imagined war. This is how panic destroys a man's perimeter, not with fire or steel, but with confusion inside the gates. And most men never realize the truth. Panic is not weakness. It is a tactical error. A breach in the wall that begins with a single uncontrolled breath and ends with the fortress of the mind collapsing from within. High above the walls of Troy, the sentinels stood in the cold wind long before dawn. They did not wait in panic. They did not let their lungs run wild. A watchman who breathes like a frightened animal cannot see clearly in the dark. So they trained a discipline older than many wars, the iron breath. The method was simple, but merciless in its precision. The sentinel drew air slowly through the nose, filling the lungs as if pouring water into a deep bronze vessel. Steady and deliberate, as though the night itself were flowing into the body. When the lungs were full, the air was held for a moment inside the chest. In said pause, the body remembered stillness. The shoulders settled, the jaw loosened. The mind stopped racing along the ramparts. A warrior who holds the breath calmly holds the gate of his mind. Then the air was released slowly through the mouth, longer than it entered. The chest lowered, the ribs softened. Each breath left the body like mist fading into the cold morning air above the city walls. Those who practiced it often described the same sensation. The air entering, the lungs felt like cool silver sliding through the chest. Clean, sharp, controlled. With every cycle, the heart slowed its hammering rhythm. It descended like a portcullis falling into place before the city gate. The pulse steadied. The body stopped shouting alarms. The mind regained its ground. In that silence, a sentinel could see farther than any man, blinded by fear. Now compare that discipline to the noise of your world, screens glowing in the dark, notifications striking the mind like arrows against a shield, endless signals demanding urgency, faster breathing, faster thinking, faster panic. But the warrior who masters the iron breath does not obey the noise. He lowers the gate of his pulse, steadies the fortress of his lungs, and reminds the body that the city is still standing. I learned something in the middle of the slaughter that most men only understand when it is too late. The loudest man in the battle is rarely the one who survives it. Noise belongs to fear, to confusion, to men who are already losing control of the ground beneath their feet. In Troy, the warriors who endured were not always the strongest nor the fastest. They were the ones who carried a strange calm inside their armor while shields cracked and men screamed around them. While chaos roared across the battlefield, their minds stood like stone towers rising above the dust. They moved without desperation, without the frantic motion that betrays fear. The battle raged outside them, but inside their chest there was a discipline that most men never learn. Silence is not the absence of sound. The battlefield is never silent. Spears whistle through the air. Bronze rings against bronze. Men shout commands that vanish into clouds of ash and dust. Yet inside the chest of a disciplined warrior, another world exists, a still place, a quiet chamber where thought moves slowly and clearly. In that chamber, fear cannot run wild through the corridors of the mind. The breath remains steady. The pulse remains measured. And when a man finds that inner stillness, something begins to change in the battle around him. His vision widens. Movements slow. Decisions sharpen like a freshly honed blade, while the chaos that blinds others becomes information. This is why silence becomes a weapon. Not a soft weapon, but a strategic one. The quiet mind becomes the command center of the battlefield. And in the world you live in, now filled with glowing screens, endless voices, and constant noise, the man who can breathe slowly in the middle of that storm becomes something rare. He becomes the one who decides how the battle ends. The battle never truly ends. It only changes its armor. Sometimes it is bronze and blood beneath the walls of a burning city. Sometimes it is silence in a dark room while your thoughts turn against you. But the law remains the same as it was in Troy. Control the breath, control the mind. When the lungs are steady, the gates hold. When the gates hold, the enemy waits outside the walls. Stand guard over your own peace like a sentinel who refuses to abandon his post. So remember this command and carry it into every storm that tries to break you. Slow the breath, lower the pulse. Silence the chaos within your chest. Most men will run with the noise and lose themselves in the slaughter of the modern world. You will not. You will breathe like iron and stand your ground while the storm passes. The legion waits for no one. Hold your position.